Hello, everyone. As you can see outlined on this slide, we are happy to provide simultaneous interpretation to English, Spanish, and Portuguese today. Please press the globe button at the bottom of your computer screen and select your preferred language. We encourage everyone who is not trilingual to select the language channel now to avoid missing any comments later. Okay, in addition to simultaneous interpretation, during today's session, you have the option to view slides in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. If you would like to continue viewing slides in English, there is nothing you need to do on your end. If you would like to view the slide deck in Spanish or Portuguese, please move your cursor to the top of the screen and click on the arrow next to View Options. Under Shared Screens, please select the language you would prefer to view the presentation in. If you have difficulties accessing the audio or slides in your preferred language, please alert us in the chat or at dataalliance@bloomberg.org. Okay, on behalf of Bloomberg Philanthropies, I'm thrilled to welcome you all to a panel for the City Data Alliance, a groundbreaking program to support cities in transforming their data practices. My name is Florence Juilliard, and I lead the Philanthropies data programs and have had the privilege of working closely with the first wave of 22 cities that are part of this initiative. Today, you'll hear directly from the city team members serving as their city's leads across this inaugural group, a role which we call City Data Alliance Lead, or CDA Lead for short. Before we get started, please use the chat function now to tell us what you are hoping to learn at today's event. And as questions come to mind for you throughout our time together, please feel free to send them in the chat and we will collect them to discuss together during the Q&A portion. So don't be shy, tell us what you hope you will get out of today's event. Today, we will cover the following topics. First, you'll hear from me about the City Data Alliance and how it came to be, its core objectives, and how the program is structured. Next, you'll hear from current city participants about how the program works and their experiences participating in the program. And finally, you'll have an opportunity to ask our presenters questions in a Q&A discussion. Before a brief reminder of the program, I want to introduce the stars of today's presentation, the City Lead panelists. Today, we are pleased to hear from Elise Teixeira, Director of the City Institute of Planning in Fortaleza, Brazil, Catherine Dever, Director, Strategy and Corporate Performance in the City Administrator's Office, Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, Stephanie Dietrich, Enterprise GIS and Data Analytics Manager in Tempe, Arizona, Rogelio Biazzi, General Cabinet Coordinator, Rosario, Argentina, Damian Pintos, Advisor to the Department of the Environmental Development, Montevideo, Uruguay, and Tim Moreland, Administrator, Department of Innovation, Delivery, and Performance in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So a little more on the program. The Bloomberg Philanthropy City Data Alliance will identify a total of 100 cities over 3 years from across North, Central, and South America that are the most sophisticated, ambitious, and advanced at harnessing data and help them set a new standard for local governments committed to using data to power better results for residents. The City Data Alliance was designed with 3 important lessons for our work in mind. Building a data culture requires the leadership of mayors and senior leaders to set the tone, expectations, and drive investments in skill building, data use, and practices. Data itself doesn't drive decisions, values do. Data is a powerful tool to drive values-driven goals and find solutions to the complex problems your cities face every day. And transformation is tough, but an approach that is focused on citywide data policies and practices can hardwire a new way of working in your city and lead to lasting change. So how does it work? As a reminder, the City Data Alliance has 2 core program components, the accelerator and the data practice tracks. The accelerator for mayors and senior leaders is focused on delivering core components necessary to transform culture around data use in your city. By the end of the accelerator, your city will create or refine a citywide data strategy, a 3-year vision and actionable plan designed to advance your city's use of data and improve city outcomes. I'd like to start today's panel by discussing our guests' experiences in the accelerator portion of the program, and then we'll return to the topic of the data practice track. We are so pleased to have this group of panelists joining us today because their accomplishments in the accelerator are truly impressive. With tools like the citywide data strategy and the data workforce plan, their cities are laying the groundwork for improved resident outcomes in a range of arenas. I'd like to turn it over first to Elise Teixeira. Elise has led Fortaleza through an unprecedented effort in data integration. Elise, can you please tell us about one of Fortaleza's accomplishments from the accelerator portion of the program?
Obrigada, Florence.
Thank you, Florence. Sure, that will be actually a pleasure to share my experience with all of you. Fortaleza created and launched the effort for data strategy for the whole city. Let me give you an example of our results that were achieved. We conducted a previous survey as a stage to diagnose the status and devise a citywide data strategy. We were part of an event that became an example because it helped us to realize and structure the main components that we needed for a good data governance. And it was important to think about each one of the stages. We thought about governance, workforce capacity, data quality, transparency, and finally, data use. So we collected documents that our mayor office already had regarding data governance, and we identified the gaps that needed to be filled to normalize data collection, make the data available in an open data portal, and to visualize the results considering the main indicators that could guide our decision-making process. We started the process by understanding what were the components that were already in place and what were the components that were still missing. So we did a kind of pre-survey to find out what the gaps were. And the mayor of Fortaleza chose a project that aims to contribute to solve one of the chronic problems of the city, which is urban cleaning. That project started in November 2022, and it was entitled Excellence in Managing Urban Cleaning. For the integration, we held meetings with the organs connected to cleaning and inspection of contracts and use of public spaces. As the main priorities of the mayor office, we hope that this effort can be symbolic for the whole city about how the use of data can have direct impacts on the lives of residents. Thank you, Florence.
So interesting to hear. And it seems like the mayor's engagement has really supercharged your work. Why do you think your mayor was so engaged, and what effect do you think it had on other senior leaders to have this meeting with the mayor?
O prefeito estava muito
The
engajado.
mayor was indeed highly engaged. He was able to take part in the kickoff event in Baltimore in the US, and he also took with him the leaders. He took me with him. I am the leader for Fortaleza, so I was there with him. We went to Baltimore and we visited the Johns Hopkins University, and that helped a lot for a successful program. In Baltimore, the mayor were aligned about the theoretical basis of the area. They got information and examples of practices in cities that are very advanced in the use of data. And they were able to see in locus successful experiences, such as that of the city of Baltimore that has a chief data officer working together with the mayor of the city to solve the main issues. So all of the leaders who were there were introduced to each other, and they also met all the coaches that work for Bloomberg Philanthropies. The trip was amazing because we were able to learn about the other experiences and establish personal contacts with the other people, which creates a commitment that goes beyond the paper. It's a face-to-face commitment that generates engagement. So the presence of the mayor in that event indeed boosted our program. We were able to apply the questionnaires about the use of data for the city, and we got everyone's engagement. We're talking about an administration with about 50,000 employees. We have around 50,000 employees here in the city of Fortaleza. So it's a city that offers basic education, public health, and we have different departments that are very large. We have 2,600,000 inhabitants. So taking part in that event helped us to put data analysis in the focus of the IT strategy. Our management was focused on digitalizing services and building or integrating IT systems, but we didn't have as a specific focus data analytics. And we also didn't have as a specific focus data integration or registering data in an integrated way. So after that experience, data integration became the core of our strategy, just as well as data governance, adaptation of certain decrees and legislation related to data governance, and applying standards to all of the systems that were in use. So that meeting that started in Baltimore last year already has positive and concrete results for all of the residents of Fortaleza because it accelerated waste management and it's helping to solve one of the main problems of the city that could cause health-related issues as well.
Great, thanks so much, Elise, and congratulations on the successful launch of your citywide data strategy. I'd like to turn now to Catherine Dever of Kitchener, Ontario in Canada. Catherine's leadership has been instrumental in building broad support for Kitchener's citywide data strategy. Catherine, can you share one of Kitchener's accomplishments from the accelerator?
Yeah, we've worked really hard internally to build support with key senior leaders, including our IT director, who will be leading work on a separate and related technology strategy, and our general manager of corporate services, whose portfolio includes some key teams who will be critical to the success of implementing our strategy. So that includes IT, HR, and equity. So we've done that through a series of one-on-one discussions that I've had with these senior leaders to align the work we're doing to other projects that are planned or underway. And what I've done is emphasized how being referenced in the data strategy will elevate the attention and priority to that existing work plan within those teams. So 2 examples are upcoming expansion of our open data offerings to increase transparency and a new workforce strategy that'll enhance our staff's data capability and enable better data-driven decisions around city services.
Catherine, it sounds like successful coalition building has been a key to your success. And just for the benefit, I think, of some of our viewers in the US and Canada, can you just quickly explain your city government structure to help us understand why you had to do more coalition building than maybe in some other cities to get this to work?
Yeah, so we have a structure where we don't have a strong mayor structure. We have a mayor and 10 councilors. So they work very consensus approach and collaborative as a council, does our department structure. So we have a chief administrative officer and 5 departments with a total of about 2,500 employees. So we have some portfolios that are really aligned and work together closely across the departments. And our culture is really focused on learning, collaboration, and making the best use of our resources. So being able to align efforts and interests with the data strategy has increased excitement around what we'll be able to change and improve for our organization and for residents.
That's wonderful to hear. You provide such a great example of advancing this work in the context of a council manager system and bringing key stakeholders together in new ways. I'd like to turn to Tempe, Arizona in the US now, where Stephanie Dietrich has been developing a city data workforce plan in recognition of the key role that her city's workforce plays in using data to solve pressing challenges and improve resident outcomes. Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit about Tempe's accomplishments in the accelerator?
I think that our really biggest accomplishment has been coming up with a data workforce plan. It helped us clearly articulate our goals for current and future staff and what we really need to put in place in order to sustain and advance our data culture. Right now, it's a little bit ad hoc where, people who understand how to use data have a lot of work in that, and people who don't maybe back off a little bit. I don't think that we would have gotten to the point we are now with our data workforce plan if it wasn't for our participation in the City Data Alliance with the accelerator. Our workforce plan focuses on making training and career development a key element of our data culture for everybody. It provides opportunities to upskill people who are interested, and it includes developing these core data literacy trainings and skill sets that would be present across the organization. We came up with we had a really good first win on this during the program, where we created a singular data analyst job description that would be used across the organization so that there were similar skill sets, capabilities, experiences that were going to be required that we thought would fit the core competencies that all departments would need, instead of having each department kind of come up for themselves what they thought would be important. The plan and going through the accelerator and having the mayor part of this is really going to be the way to help us build institutional support and awareness. Even having him be part of the development process allowed us to bring other senior leadership that weren't necessarily part of CDA to the table and have them really open to participating, because the mayor helped define this as something that he thought was really important.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's fantastic to see how comprehensive Tempe of an approach that Tempe is taking to mobilize the whole workforce to collect, analyze, and use data to improve outcomes. It really sounds like you're making data everyone's job in Tempe. Let's hear now from Damian, who has been leading an effort to transform how Montevideo in Uruguay is using data to find solutions to challenges residents are facing. And Damian, I'd like to congratulate you, because I think one of the outcomes of the program is that you are now the city's first chief data officer. So tell us a little bit about Montevideo's accomplishments in the accelerator.
Bien, pasaron un montón de cosas buenas.
A lot of things, good things happened in this last semester, and the program had a lot to do. It really helped a lot. The fact that I'm the leader is, I think, the least important aspect. The main aspect is that we created the data committee and launched it with 2 meetings. It was quite risky because of the context. The municipality had been an example of data publication within Uruguay and in the use of data. So innovating in a context like that where you're doing well, it's very risky. So what we did was change the policy, and data wasn't just about IT, and it was about all of the administration. And we created a committee where the entire administration would be a part of it, anyone who worked with data.
Por eso para mí porque funcionó y porque generó productos.
The fact that it worked and that it generated products, I mean, that would be the main achievement or result that I see in this work. And within this group, we were able to also create some training programs. We were able to see what needs the different departments have. There's a health observatory as well. We went to where we were doing worst in terms of data, and we tried it out there to see if we could make an observatory, and we were able to do it. So we're so happy. We're so happy. We're happy with everything that we managed to do. And we have a lot of hope looking forward. We think that we will be able to achieve a lot thanks to this context. I mean, everything could have gone wrong. The municipality was doing well with data, so changing the way you work was kind of, whoa, wait a second. I'm sorry to the translator, I made them say, whoa, wait a second, but
Thank you, Damian. I appreciate that Montevideo was willing to take the leap and take some risks. It's encouraging to see how your work is creating a culture of data and also probably a culture of risk-taking in Montevideo around data. Rogelio, I'd like to turn to you now. Your team in Rosario, Argentina has used the accelerator to break down silos and promote data integration and build capacity of your workforce. Can you tell us a little bit about the accomplishments of your team through the accelerator?
Thank you so much, Florence. Something positive that we see in this program, and thanks to this partnership, is that the cities that participated in this first cohort, I mean, perhaps we have different levels of progress in the use of data to make government decisions. And in this case, we all took what we needed from the program, depending on the state of our city. In Rosario, we had developed our data plan, but the accelerator was incredible to help us solve the biggest issue that we had in our data strategy, which was the sharing of data through the different government areas, and also to change the culture within teams that work in the different areas of the municipality. So what we did, thanks to the accelerator, was that we progressed in a lot of aspects in terms of the strategy that we already had. And we were able to diagnose improvements that we needed so that we could have concrete results. I can mention 3. We created with some standards, and we came up with a law, a municipal law, where we created a data lab and a data governance committee to make decisions regarding all the initiatives that we have with data. So this lab is already formally created, and the data governance committee is also created. And we already know what the roles and responsibilities are for each of the members of this committee. Another result obtained is the fact that we were able to improve the change culture and the data culture, or how data is used in the organization. And we were able to train the teams that work in the different areas of the municipality. We have a program in our internal training platform called our virtual classroom. And what we did was incorporate different courses so that we could help people in data usage and to help with data literacy. This is so that people can use data in the best way possible. And we will continue to improve and come up with new courses for people. And lastly, a noticeable result is the first inventory of data, first data set inventory. So that way we can end with the silos that we had in the different areas. So we have different data champions in different departments. And we have health, mobility, human development, environment, and technology departments working together so that they can solve all of the day-to-day issues that include the different areas. That way, all areas work together and don't just focus on their area. So hopefully, in the future, we will be able to have a data lake.
Rogelio, congratulations on all these important accomplishments, and love seeing that the data champions are in some key areas that will definitely have impact on Rosario's residents. In fact, thank you all for sharing your accomplishments with us. It's inspiring to hear how you're using tools like the citywide data strategy and city data workforce plan to strengthen governance and improve data quality and use, deepen capacity, and improve transparency in the cities. I imagine your comments have piqued the audience's curiosity and want to encourage the audience to continue sharing your questions in the chat feature. Let's transition now to discuss the second program component. Complementing the accelerator is the data practice track. This is a deep dive into one of 4 critical data practice areas with subject matter experts to elevate your practice and make it sustainable at a citywide level. These critical practices are performance management, evaluation, excellence in procurement, and data as a service. And cities will rank their preferences for these practice areas and be assigned to one track. So let's hear from Catherine first. Can you tell us which track you are participating in and share one accomplishment from your track work?
Sure, Florence. We're participating in the performance management track, and we're examining street sweeping as our first service area with an eye, once we're finished the 12-month program, to transition these learnings across all our core services organization-wide. So the analysis that our staff team has done so far has revealed a baseline understanding of service levels and how sweeping may be mismatched versus maintenance standards and expectations. So some areas being cleaned more often than needed and others perhaps not as frequently as ideal. So we're in the midst of digging deeper into this from a bunch of perspectives, some of which we likely wouldn't have thought of on our own without the work of our coaches. So looking at it from equity standpoint, service level, environmental sustainability, and the financial perspective as well. So the breadth of this track, as well as the customization to your own city, is really valuable. The team's always excited to meet bi-weekly with our coaches, and they're always bringing forward great ideas, recommendations, and considerations. And so what we're going to achieve through this track are more timely sweeping of our streets, safer travel for residents, a cleaner water system, and a cost-effective service that doesn't result in user rate increases. And as I mentioned, we have a bigger picture eye on how we can translate these learnings through a prioritized approach over all of our 40 to 50 core service areas across Kitchener.
Wow, it's wonderful to hear how Kitchener is leveraging the performance management track to improve street sweeping services for residents, but also thinking about how those lessons learned will provide a framework for other problems and priority areas in the city. Stephanie, let's hear from you. Tempe reached a major milestone last month in your data practice track. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Tempe is participating in the evaluation track. And in December of last year, we successfully had our evaluation policy and program passed through a council resolution. This was my key goal for 2022 overall. So hitting the end of December, cutting it close, was, when we hit the end of the year, I was super excited. This is important because having a council resolution pass means that the council, mayor, and our city manager are demonstrating their support of creating the policy and implementing the program, and an expectation that the city will get behind it and actually participate in the program and really institutionalize the things that we're trying to do. The key thing that our new policy allows us to do is move our focus from, kind of one-off evaluations that are happening out in the wild without any real consideration of best practices or a citywide view, and instead focus on understanding what works across city government by being very intentional about the evaluations that we undertake. My hope was that by taking this approach, we could really start to push the idea that culturally evaluations are important. Right now, I think people think of them as a good thing to do, but not a requirement. And also push the idea of organizational learning about the services we provide, the way that we're spending taxpayer funds, and the way that we're actually implementing services or programs has real benefit. Our resolution that we got through council lays out an evaluation program in addition to the policy, and that encourages the use of evaluations holistically over the long term and lays out what that looks like. It provides for the formation of evaluation working group or a steering committee, which will help identify promising candidates for evaluation among programs that are regular parts of the city budget, as well as new supplemental requests. This process is a sustainable structure for planning evaluations over the long term, and it's part of our performance-led budgeting process now. And so it is a requirement throughout the year as part of budget requests. And I think that the real benefit to our citizens with this is that it's going to have us take a step back and really understand how our programs and services are working and let us make more informed decisions based on how things are actually happening and not just, looking at the data without that kind of critical eye.
Wow, such a huge accomplishment to have codified your evaluation work into the future through policy, which all cities work on during the track. But I think you were the first to accomplish that council resolution. Rogelio, Rosario has been fortifying and transforming your city's procurement and contracting systems through the procurement excellence track. We know you've made some recent strides in improving vendors' experience doing business with the city and attracting more vendors, and perhaps also worked on a high priority RFP related to the city's largest hospital laundry services. Could you tell us a little bit about that work and some of the challenges you're tackling?
Claro que sí, Florence, gracias.
Yes, of course.
Que el Estado municipal en este caso gasta o invierte el dinero.
The amount that we spend
Es importantísimo.
from taxpayers is quite high. We have to take two pillars into consideration: efficiency of the expenses and transparency. And we're working on this in this track. We're also following up with Harvard Kennedy School, which has supported us in the program in this track so that we can improve our system so that they can be more efficient and transparent. So what we did was specialize ourselves in order to manage a transformational process or a reform process of goods and services that will allow us to create an agency that has all of its standards and that can work in the operational aspect. So we centralize these standards and then we centralize it all in the different areas, the areas that do all the hiring. That way we can support all of the people better, all of the areas better, and we can reduce the workload. This also allowed us to focus on a cultural change, on an institutional change that is necessary in purchases and hirings so that we can be more sustainable in Rosario. Ever since the beginning of the program, we had meetings with our partners. We had some in Montevideo, for example, and some with the coaches, and we were able to establish a baseline of times for purchases and hirings, considering the strong points and everything that we had in order so that we could define what was the path to follow so that we could improve purchases and hiring. So now we are beginning our Beacon project with a recurring bid in the Public Health Secretariat, and where we're going to modify procedures and innovate how we do our official announcements and how we hire. That way, we can have better bids. And all of this is to improve the services of the city and the results of the city as a whole.
Thank you, Rogelio. And of course, the Harvard Kennedy School is one of our partners in the City Data Alliance, focusing on cities who are working on procurement excellence. And I know you've had a lot of exchange with your colleagues in Montevideo who are also focusing on procurement excellence in their track. It's really encouraging to hear how Rosario has been able to both increase efficiency and align expectations on purchases and hiring across the city. So let's hear next from Tim Moreland. Tim's team is in Chattanooga, Tennessee in the US, and you've been tackling the challenge of affordable housing. Tim, can you tell us what track you're participating in and share more about what you've been working on in the track?
Sure. So as you said, our track is data as a service. We've been working with Public Digital, which has been a great partner with us and really helped us kind of think through the whole steps of what it means to create something as a service, especially our data sets. We have a lot of data and information out there, and we do a pretty good job with our governance and our automation of data and pushing things out. And we realized we needed to take our work to the next level and think about not just putting data out there, but how can we actually make that useful and really understand what users truly need when publishing that data. And so that's what really drew us to the data as a service track, is like that user focus and trying to make the data actionable and useful for folks. We had some options when we were thinking about what we wanted to do and which course we wanted to go for our what we call our Beacon data service that we were going to test out. There was many options. Some were a little bit easier because they had cleaner data or a clearer problem or a straightforward path. But affordable housing was this ambiguous kind of big, hairy problem we had in front of us in Chattanooga. And Mayor Kelly wanted us to focus in on that and see what we could do. So the goal is to really, for the first time, take data that's been siloed in many different places about where our affordable housing is located in the city and put that in an easy to access location and experience for folks. And what's most been valuable about it is it's really helped us break down our silos, both internal and external, since the data lives in many different places, and have all those people talking together as we've worked towards creating something that's going to work for the community. So that's, I think that's been one thing that's been really great about the program, and kind of the nice thing about the City Data Alliance is this, and things like the Beacon Data Service, is this just explanatory of how to use a data service. But we're already thinking about the data service standard that we created as part of this effort on how to use that similar approach for other data services that we're going to be publishing and working on in the future. So it's already starting to show dividends and other ways to make data more accessible and empowering for folks in Chattanooga. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you, everyone, for sharing about some of the work you're doing in your data practice tracks. Some of the themes I'm hearing is really breaking down silos, taking a citywide lens to how you want to approach the work in the future, and creating, not only upskilling, but creating those policies that are going to allow you to replicate what you learn in other priority areas. Just a quick reminder to our audience that we are collecting your questions in the chat feature, so please continue to send them. Each of you is doing such impressive work in your unique context, which I hope is resonating with the audience. And as they consider how participation in the program might support their cities, I'd love to talk now about what each of you has found most helpful about participation. Damian, can we hear from you first? How has the program helped you and Montevideo?
Yeah.
Yo diría que fue fundamental. El equipo de coaches fue muy...
It was key. The coaches were very sensitive and they adapted the program to how we are, how we work, and how we wanted to approach the program.
En algún tipo de programa en el que ese trabajo...
I mean, sometimes we have gotten into other programs where we had to do a lot of the work, and it made it more complicated because the idea is for the program not to define the policies, and that's what happened here, and that was excellent. They also helped us organize ourselves. We had a lot to do, and it is a lot of us. We have between 20 and 40 people in the meetings, and all those people had things to do within the program. And we also had a lot of action areas, let's say, areas of action. So we had to get organized behind this 5-component strategy. So that way we were able to focus on each area. And we made sure that no one was outside the program. Everyone was doing something, but no one had a high workload. So that's thanks to the coaches and their excellent work. I mean, really, congratulations and thank you so much, because they were ideal and they helped us reach this optimistic situation which we're in now. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Damian. And I think you're talking about the citywide data strategy, the 5 components: governance, capacity, quality, use, and transparency as an organizing tool. Catherine, let's hear from you next. Any thoughts on how the program has helped you in Kitchener?
Yeah, I would definitely echo some of what Damian said. It's so valuable, the coaching model and the expertise and knowledge that they bring, and then complementary what we bring, and then the learning back and forth. So the discussions are really early on around our needs, both on the accelerator side and on the performance track. They've been really valuable, and we have the same coaches for both. So we're able to connect our learnings and align things across both tracks. So it's been really high quality learning program, probably one of the best that I've had the chance to participate in at Kitchener. And the quality of the relationships that we built with the coaches has been fabulous.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm sure the coaches will be happy to hear that their hard work is appreciated. And Stephanie, can you share a little bit about what you found helpful about the program?
I also echo what's been said so far. The coaches just being so supportive and helpful. For us, the coaching and the activities, both in the accelerator and in the evaluation track, were valuable just not for getting this work done, but for helping me personally figure out how I can do some of this work of bringing people together who may not necessarily be involved in something and helping them get through that process. And so this hasn't just been learning about how to build that data strategy, but how to talk to people about data in a meaningful way and give them that coaching myself. I think that for the evaluation trainings, we feel a lot more confident now in being able to run an evaluation ourselves compared to when we started, and we ran our first evaluation at the end of last year with our library. And the results weren't what we thought they would be, but it was pretty interesting. They actually basically discounted what we assumed was going to be the case, and it was completely opposite of that. And so it was looking at how, to get people to come back and engage with the library. And so it's having us rethink what our assumptions were in the first place about better ways to engage with the community. And so I think that all the best practices that we've learned, like I said, the troubleshooting approaches that they've given us, the collaboration skill sets, I think are going to be incredibly valuable to us going forward, even after this program is over.
Great, thank you so much. Let me just recap some themes I heard. I think coaches meeting you where you are and also providing that supportive structure as in combination with the relevant and practical content knowledge seems to have been a combination that was useful to the cities, which we're excited to hear. So before we move into audience Q&A, I want to cover one more question. As program participants yourselves, each of you has a unique perspective on what it's taken to succeed in the program. What is one piece of advice for cities and audience that will help them be successful if they're accepted into the program? Elise, can we hear from you first?
Obrigada, Florence, pela
Yes,
pergunta.
thank you, Florence, for your question. What I would like to tell all of you and all of the prospect cities is devise your projects and submit to the City Data Alliance call. Rest assured that this program is much better than you can imagine and much better than what I can describe. So a piece of advice that I would have to all of you is, if you can, access the What Works Cities platform from Bloomberg Philanthropies. It's a great platform. You can learn about all of the requirements for a previous diagnosis of the challenges that your city has to overcome. And the final goal of the program is that each city can have a good data management and enhance their decision-making process based on evidence. Thank you, Florence.
Thanks, Elise. Great advice. And of course, from the outset of our work with cities, we use the What Works Cities certification assessment to understand and advance your city's capacity. So for background, if you're not familiar with the certification standard, it's an international standard of excellence in city government. And the self-assessment, which is the last part of your application process, is a tool that allows you to compare your city's current practices against best practices in 43 criteria. And if you're accepted, you and your coach will use the results of your assessments to tailor your experience and your needs. And for cities that are not yet certified, completing the self-assessment is actually the first step towards certification, and we can support you to work towards certification as well. Catherine, what comes up for you when you think about a piece of advice you would give to cities?
So in Kitchener, we opted to have 2 co-leads, and it's really made a huge difference in our ability to be successful in both the accelerator and the performance management track. So in our organization, we place a really high value on learning and collaboration. So having my role from the CAO's office and a policy and governance perspective, combined with a co-lead from our technology strategist from an IT and system side and knowing the data and practices, having us both involved in the work has provided really good complementary knowledge and skill. And then also from a practical standpoint, we can cover each other off for some of the scheduling, attending the various really valuable learning opportunities and lunch and learns and the different webinars that are offered. So that's something to consider, is having a co-lead model instead of just one person, if you think that might work for your city. Thanks.
Great. How wonderful that this structure has worked for Kitchener. I'd certainly can encourage other cities to consider it as well. Damian, let's go to you next. What advice do you have for prospective cities?
Yes.
Bueno, para nosotros el programa se dio muy naturalmente.
Well, the program was something very natural. I mean, we wanted to do something like this, and we wanted to go in the direction that this program was taking us. It was key to be able to go deeper into a data policy, be it to make decisions based on policies or to publish them. It's important to have support, political support. Without that political support, it's very difficult to progress at any level. We had 2 lines of work, transversal work in the mayor's office so that we could make decisions based on data. And so people from one department had to send data to the other department. And we also wanted to change our data policy so that we could change how we made decisions. So the idea is to not publish data. I don't define what data I publish. I define what data I don't publish, and everything else we publish by defect. And all of that is beautiful. But if you don't have strong political backup, support, it won't happen. So I think it has to do with more with that than it's the reach.
De lo que pretendan hacer en estos 6 meses está
And
muy
it depends on what you want to do in these 6 months. And that's very conditioned to that political support. In our case, we had a proposal from the city from the beginning
tomar decisiones basadas en datos y que los
to
datos
make decisions based on data and that the data be available for all citizens. We couldn't be above citizens and have more information than the citizens.
fundamental.
And that was key.
Está bien, este programa les va a
If you have less than that, it's fine. You're going to love the program. You're going to progress a lot, but you will have an issue in terms of reach in that sense. It's as simple as that. You can't go against the government's policies.
Thank you, Damian. Political support is certainly a very important consideration, and I think throughout the panel has shared a range of options and shared about their mayors and other senior leaders really backing the work as a key piece of how to be successful. Tim, let's have you be the final person to answer this question. What advice would you have for prospective cities?
Yeah, I think the main advice I would give to prospective cities is like anything in life, you're going to get out what you put in. So, just getting in the program and being part of the City Data Alliance isn't enough. You really have to kind of dedicate that time and resources to get out what you want out of this opportunity and really move your data program to the next level. So I think just to kind of manage people's expectations, it's not just being in the program, but really kind of taking a stance of I'm going to really engage with it and put the resource and time and efforts into it. And then it will pay dividends like you're hearing from what everyone has shared today.
Thanks so much, Tim. So we're now going to turn to some questions from the audience. We have a few that have already come through the chat. The first one is, what profile is desired for the team that will accompany the mayor during the City Data Alliance? So what does that senior team, what should it look like? And in total, how many people are expected to be directly engaged? So that's a great question. So normally we recommend 3 to 4 senior team members. The number of senior leaders will be tailored to your city's structure and needs, but most of the cities in this cohort have selected 3 to 4 senior leaders to participate, including one CDA lead who is a senior leader, often but not always the chief data officer, who will serve as your city's main point of contact. And if selected, your city support team and coaches will work with you and the lead and the mayor to identify the best senior leaders that will be the best fit for the program. The team's also going to participate in your data practice track work will likely be a bit different of a group from the team participating in the accelerator, but your CDA lead will be a common thread. I see Rogelio is raising his hand. Do you want to comment on that, Rogelio?
¿Decir algo?
Or did you mean to raise your hand?
No, bueno, fue sin querer, pero ya que estás.
Sorry, no, I didn't mean to, but since you mentioned my name, then I'll make use of this time just to motivate cities to apply to this program. To us, it was amazing too. I wanted to also echo what Damian said. You need political support and political leadership. You need to convince the local mayor or local leaders to commit. It's important that they commit to the process. And like what Ellis said in the beginning, it's very important to participate in the momentum. We also went to Baltimore, and that was excellent to become involved and to also to have that feeling of belonging. I also recommend just using the coaches, taking advantage of the coaches. They are spectacular, and just let them guide you because they guide you magnificently. and also get rid of any prejudice that we all have when we make decisions. We have to get rid of all of that to make decisions, to make better decisions. We have to just get rid of what's binary and just think a little bit outside the box. And we have to not let emotions make decisions for us. Data is very important to make decisions, and this way we can govern in a more efficient manner. That's what I wanted to say. Well, not what I wanted to say, but yes, thank you.
Thank you, Rogelio. Okay, we have another question, and it's actually for Tim this time. Marcos from Mojitas Crucis is interested in what were some of the main challenges in the data as a service work, and what products were you able to create during the training process? And I know that you're about halfway through that, so the products might be in progress since that finishes in June, but love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so, I think it's interesting. The challenges that we've had are kind of ones we're not expected. So I think, it's just a good reminder that have to be resilient with this, so we, some of the challenges we had is the key leader on the Beacon data service left the city during the engagement. And then also we had not the support that we were thinking and hoping we had from other wings within city government. So we're kind of having to pivot the team and have them focus where we thought we could rely on other partners. And so both of those things have been challenging. And we thought finding the data and consolidating the data and getting it in a useful format would be the challenge. And that was pretty easy. And so, you never know what is going to be most challenging. But that's what we're finding right now. So as Florence mentioned, we are building our early prototype, and we're going to try to do multiple iterations on our prototype and test with users. So a big part of the data service standard is really kind of user testing and understanding their needs. And so we're trying to get to something that's as simple as possible, but will allow us to learn the most so that we can continue to iterate and make the data service even more impactful and useful for folks. So that's the phase we're in right now. We're hoping to have a prototype by the end of the month, which is coming up soon. So probably early in February, and then start that user testing, which we're really excited about.
Great, thank you, Tim. We have another question. What is the exchange of experiences between the cities participating in the program like, and how has this helped you meet the challenges? So just want to share that the program provides multiple opportunities for exchange with other cities in the City Data Alliance. All the cities participate in cross-city workshops throughout the accelerator, and in some cases through the data practice tracks as well. And it will kick off with the mayoral convening in Baltimore. And City Data Alliance leads will also be invited for this cohort to start by sharing challenges, meeting each other, and learning from each other. The other thing that the coaches are really good at doing, and that we try to foster, is if one city is doing something that another city can learn from, that we connect them directly so that they can talk more. Unfortunately, we're at time. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and panelists, we appreciate you taking the time to share so candidly with prospective cities. To our audience, we are thrilled by the interest. I see the questions still coming in, and just know that we will respond via email if we did not respond to your questions live today. You can find more information on our resources page or email us at dataalliance@bloomberg.org. And I believe that some of our city support staff will stay on for a little bit longer to answer questions as well. So thank you, everyone.